Hello friends, welcome to African Urban Tales, where stories come alive. Do well to hit that subscription button and turn on notifications bell. Now, relax as we dive into today's story. The sun was setting over the bustling streets of Lagos, casting a golden glow on the crumbling buildings and overcrowded markets. In one of the city's roughest neighborhoods, a young boy named Jason King stood outside a small, one-room house, watching as sleek, expensive cars drove past. His mother, Agnes King, a tired woman in her late 40s, sat on a wooden stool, peeling cassava. Her hands were rough from years of hard labor. "Jason, come and help me," she called. Jason didn't move. He kept his eyes on the main road, where a black Mercedes-Benz had just pulled up in front of a nightclub. A well-dressed man stepped out, his gold watch catching the last rays of sunlight. The man whispered something to the club's bouncer, who nodded and let him in without a second glance. Jason turned to his mother. "Mama, who is that?" Agnes sighed. "People like him don't concern us, Jason. Just come and help me." But Jason didn't listen. He had seen the way people in the neighborhood treated men like that, with fear, respect, and admiration. He had seen how they threw money around like it was nothing. He wanted that life. At 16, Jason had already learned how to survive on the streets. He ran errands for shopkeepers, helped mechanics with odd jobs, and sometimes picked pockets when money was tight. But it was never enough. One evening, his childhood friend, Michael Carter, approached him. "Jason, I have something for you," Michael said, looking around nervously. "What is it?" Jason asked. Michael pulled out a small plastic bag filled with white powder. Jason frowned. "What's this?" "Cocaine," Michael whispered. "I got it from a guy in Ikoyi. We can sell it here and make real money." Jason hesitated. He had heard of drugs before. He had seen men get rich off it, but he had also seen people get arrested. "How much can we make?" Jason asked. Michael grinned. "Enough to never be broke again." That night, Jason took his first step into the drug business. They started small, selling to local criminals and nightclub goers. Jason quickly realized he had a talent for it. He was smart, cautious, and had a natural charm that made people trust him. Within a few months, they expanded. Jason learned how to cut the drugs to increase profits, how to bribe the right police officers, and how to avoid unnecessary attention. One day, his mother confronted him. "Where are you getting all this money, Jason?" she demanded, noticing the new sneakers and expensive watch he was wearing. "I'm doing business, Mama," Jason said casually. "Business?" She narrowed her eyes. "What kind of business?" Jason forced a smile. "Just trading things. Don't worry." Agnes sighed but didn't press further. She needed the money, and Jason knew it. By the time Jason turned 20, he and Michael had made a name for themselves in the Lagos underworld. They worked under a man named Raymond Black, a powerful drug dealer who controlled most of the city's supply. Raymond was ruthless. He had built his empire through violence and fear, and he didn't tolerate weakness. Jason admired him, but he also wanted more. One evening, Jason met with Michael at a quiet bar. "We can't keep working for Raymond forever," Jason said. "We're making him rich while we get scraps." Michael frowned. "What are you saying?" Jason leaned in. "We take over." Michael's eyes widened. "Are you crazy? Raymond will kill us." Jason smirked. "Not if we kill him first." Michael hesitated, but deep down, he knew Jason was right. They were smarter than Raymond. They just needed the right opportunity. That opportunity came 2 weeks later. Jason set up a meeting with Raymond at a warehouse near the docks, pretending he had a big deal lined up. When Raymond arrived, Jason shot him in the head before he even had time to react. Michael stood frozen. "Jason, what did you just do?" Jason wiped the blood off his gun. "I just made us kings." With Raymond dead, Jason took control of the entire operation. Anyone who resisted was eliminated. Within months, Jason King became the most feared and respected drug lord in Lagos. He moved out of his mother's house and bought a mansion in Banana Island, one of the most luxurious areas in Lagos. He filled it with expensive furniture, designer clothes, and imported champagne. He bought 3 cars, a Rolls-Royce, a Lamborghini, and a bulletproof Range Rover. At clubs, he threw wads of cash into the air, watching as people scrambled to pick it up. One night, while sitting at a VIP table in an exclusive club, his girlfriend, Sophia Rivers, leaned in and whispered, "I've never seen a man spend money like you do." Jason smirked. "That's because there's no man like me." Michael, sitting across from him, wasn't smiling. Jason, we need to be careful. The police are watching. Jason laughed. Let them watch. I own this city. But Michael wasn't convinced. He could see it. Jason was changing. The power was getting to his head. One day, Jason returned to his old neighborhood to visit his mother. He arrived in a convoy of SUVs, his bodyguards stepping out first to clear the way. When he walked up to the small house, his mother looked at him with sad eyes. Look at you, she said. Do you even remember where you came from? Jason scoffed. Mama, I'm rich now. I can take you out of here. You don't have to live like this anymore. Agnes shook her head. I don't want drug money, Jason. Jason's smile faded. Then stay here and suffer. Without another word, he turned and left. Michael, who had been watching, shook his head. Jason, you're losing yourself. Jason turned to him, eyes cold. If you don't like it, leave. Michael said nothing, but in that moment, he knew Jason's arrogance would be his downfall. And he wasn't wrong. Jason King was on top of the world, but he had no idea how fast everything was about to come crashing down. Jason King was no longer the hungry, ambitious street kid trying to make a name for himself. He had arrived. He was at the top. And now, he acted like a man who believed he was untouchable. Luxury had changed him. Power had changed him. The Jason who once valued loyalty and friendship was slowly fading, replaced by an arrogant, reckless kingpin who believed everyone was beneath him. Michael Carter, his childhood friend and closest ally, noticed the shift first. One night, they sat in Jason's massive mansion in Banana Island, surrounded by expensive liquor, loud music, and women draped over the furniture like decorations. Michael leaned in. Jason, we need to talk. Jason, reclining on a gold-trimmed sofa, barely looked up from his phone. Talk about what? Michael's voice was firm. You've changed. Jason smirked. Of course I've changed. I went from broke to a billionaire in less than 3 years. That's what success does. Michael shook his head. It's not just that. You don't respect anyone anymore. You treat people like trash, even the ones who helped you get here. Jason laughed and sipped his drink. Mike, let me tell you something about life. Money is power, and power means you don't have to say please or thank you. Michael clenched his jaw. He knew arguing with Jason was pointless. The money had gotten into his head. The first time Jason truly humiliated Michael in public, it was at an exclusive club in Victoria Island. Michael had been trying to talk to Jason about a problem with one of their dealers. But Jason, already drunk, wasn't in the mood. Michael lowered his voice. Jason, I'm serious. If we don't handle this, we're going to lose control over. Jason suddenly stood up and threw his glass of champagne at the floor, shattering it. The entire club went silent. Michael, do you think I need your advice? Jason shouted. Do you think I didn't build this empire with my own hands? If you're so smart, why are you still working for me instead of running your own business? People stared. Some laughed. Others whispered. Michael's face burned with embarrassment. He wanted to punch Jason in the face, but he knew better. Jason had men everywhere, and in his drunken state, he wouldn't hesitate to make an example of him. Michael took a deep breath. I'm just trying to help, Jason. Jason smirked. Then help by keeping your mouth shut. Michael nodded, but in his heart, something shifted. The friendship they once had was now hanging by a thread. Sophia Rivers, Jason's girlfriend, also began to see the ugly side of his arrogance. She had fallen in love with him because of his confidence and ambition. But now, she barely recognized the man she was with. One night, after another expensive dinner, Sophia sat across from Jason in his penthouse and spoke her mind. You're not the same man I fell for, she said. Jason, distracted by his phone, barely looked up. What are you talking about? You treat people like they don't matter. Even me. Jason laughed. Oh, please, Sophia. You love the lifestyle. The money, the cars, the trips to Dubai. If you really had a problem with me, you wouldn't still be here. Sophia clenched her fists. It's not about the money, Jason. It's about respect. Jason took a sip of his drink. Respect is for weak men. Power is all that matters. Sophia sighed. She had her answer. 2 days later, she packed her bags and left. Jason barely reacted. She'll be back, he told himself. He was Jason King. Women like her always came back. But Sophia never did. The only family Jason had left was his Aunt Martha, an elderly woman who had raised him after his parents passed. She was the only person who still spoke to him like he was the same boy she had once cared for. One evening, Jason visited her in her small apartment in Suralere. He arrived in a convoy of SUVs, his bodyguards stepping out first to secure the area. Inside, Aunt Martha shook her head. You always come with these men. Do you think someone wants to kill you? Jason smirked. I have enemies, Mama. She sighed and pointed to the simple meal she had prepared. Come eat. Jason sat at the table, but as he picked at the food, Aunt Martha spoke. You are too proud now, Jason. You don't listen. You don't respect people. Jason sighed. Mama, I didn't come here for a lecture. But you need one. Jason leaned back, irritated. Look, I send you money every month. I make sure you have everything you need. Isn't that enough? Aunt Martha shook her head. What will money do for me when my own blood is walking towards his own destruction? Jason laughed. Mama, I'm richer than most politicians in this country. I have nothing to worry about. Aunt Martha looked at him with sad eyes. A man who believes he cannot fall is the one who falls the hardest. Jason rolled his eyes. I'll be fine, Mama. She sighed. I hope so, Jason. I really do. But deep down, she knew her nephew was heading for disaster. Jason's arrogance was not only destroying his relationships, it was making him reckless in business. There was one rule in the drug trade. Never expand into another kingpin's territory without permission. But Jason didn't care. His next target was Dwayne Parker, a ruthless drug lord who controlled the ports in Apapa. Dwayne was older, more experienced, and just as dangerous. Michael warned him. Jason, this is a mistake. Dwayne is not someone to mess with. Jason smirked. Dwayne is old. He doesn't have my money, my connections, or my power. I'll take what I want. And so, Jason ordered his men to start moving drugs into Dwayne's territory. Dwayne didn't take it lightly. One night, as Jason's men transported a shipment, they were ambushed. 5 of his top men were killed. Jason was furious. He called Dwayne personally. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, Jason growled. Dwayne chuckled. No, boy. You made the mistake when you thought you could step into my world without my permission. Jason clenched his jaw. I'm coming for you. Dwayne laughed. Then come. But be ready to lose everything. The drug war had begun. As if Jason didn't already have enough enemies, he had also caught the attention of Detective Robert Steele, a relentless officer with a personal vendetta against the drug trade. For months, Steele had been gathering intelligence on Jason's operations. Now, with the ongoing war between Jason and Dwayne, Steele saw an opportunity. At the police headquarters, Steele stood in front of a board filled with pictures of Jason and his associates. He's getting reckless, Steele said to his team. The more arrogant he becomes, the easier it will be to take him down. One of his officers nodded. We have sources inside his organization. We just need the right moment. Steele smirked. Then let's wait. Jason King will destroy himself. We just have to be ready to catch him when he falls. The war between Jason King and Dwayne Parker was no longer just about business. It was personal. Jason's expansion into Dwayne's territory had been bold, but reckless. He had underestimated the old kingpin. While Jason partied in clubs and flaunted his wealth, Dwayne was carefully planning his revenge. One night, Jason and his men were transporting a large shipment through a warehouse near the Lagos docks. The air smelled of salt water and gasoline as they loaded the crates into hidden compartments in a truck. Jason stood nearby, sipping whiskey from a glass, his eyes scanning the operation with pride. We're untouchable, he muttered to Michael Carter, his oldest friend and right-hand man. Michael, who had been growing uneasy with Jason's arrogance, didn't respond. Before he could say anything, gunfire erupted. Bullets tore through the night. Ambush! One of Jason's men screamed. Dwayne's men, dressed in black, emerged from the shadows, armed with automatic rifles. They sprayed bullets across the warehouse, cutting down Jason's men before they could react. Jason dove behind a stack of crates, pulling out his pistol. He fired blindly, but it was too late. Within minutes, the gunfire ceased. Smoke filled the air. Blood pooled on the cold concrete floor. Jason crawled out from his hiding spot, his ears ringing. His bodyguards lay dead around him. Dwayne stepped forward, a cigar in his mouth. He looked down at the carnage and shook his head. You got too greedy, Jason, Dwayne said. Jason clenched his fists. This isn't over. Dwayne smirked. Oh, it is. I could kill you right now, but that would be too easy. He flicked his cigar onto one of the dead bodies and turned to leave. Jason, breathing heavily, watched Dwayne's men disappear into the night. He had just lost half of his top soldiers. For the first time, Jason felt fear. Michael had been Jason's closest friend since childhood. He had stood by him through everything. The early days of their drug empire, the murders, the betrayals. But something had changed. Jason had turned into a monster. Michael had tried to warn him, to guide him, but Jason no longer listened. He only cared about power. After the ambush, Michael met with Detective Robert Steele, the man leading the investigation against Jason. They met in secret, inside a dimly lit cafe in the outskirts of Lagos. Michael sat across from Steele, his hands shaking slightly. Steele leaned forward. "Are you sure about this?" Michael exhaled. "Jason is out of control. If I don't do this, more people will die. I'm done protecting him." Steele studied him for a moment before nodding. "Good. We need intel, bank accounts, shipment details, names of his suppliers." Michael hesitated, then slid a flash drive across the table. "It's all there." Steele picked it up and smiled. "You just did the right thing, Michael." Michael wasn't so sure. As he walked out of the cafe, guilt weighed heavy on his chest. Jason had been like a brother to him. But Jason had left him no choice. Detective Steele, now armed with Michael's intel, began his final assault on Jason's empire. One by one, Jason's offshore bank accounts were frozen. The police raided his warehouses and seized drugs worth millions. For the first time in years, Jason felt powerless. One afternoon, as he sat in his mansion, his phone rang. His banker's voice was shaky. "Mr. King, we have a problem. The authorities have frozen all your accounts." Jason's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "Your money, sir. It's gone." Jason's grip tightened around his phone. "Find a way to fix it. Now." The banker sighed. "I'm sorry, sir. There's nothing we can do." Jason slammed his phone against the wall. His empire was crumbling, and he didn't even know yet that Michael had betrayed him. As the walls closed in, the last person to abandon Jason was Sophia Rivers. Despite everything, she had stayed with him, hoping he would change. But the man she once loved was gone, replaced by an arrogant, cruel, and paranoid kingpin. One evening, she packed her bags and stood in the middle of the mansion's grand living room, waiting for Jason. When he walked in, he saw the luggage and frowned. "Where are you going?" Sophia took a deep breath. "I'm leaving, Jason." Jason scoffed. "You're joking." "I'm not," she said, her voice steady. "I can't do this anymore." Jason's eyes darkened. "You think you can just walk away from me?" Sophia didn't flinch. "You have nothing left to offer me. The power, the money, it's all disappearing. And you? You're just a shell of the man I fell in love with." Jason clenched his jaw. "So that's it. You're leaving me when I need you the most." Sophia shook her head. "No, Jason. You've never needed anyone. That's the problem." She picked up her bags and walked past him. For the first time in years, Jason felt completely alone. He turned and watched as Sophia walked out of his life forever. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, spectators, former associates. Everyone wanted to witness the downfall of Jason King. The trial had been the biggest news in Nigeria for months. Jason, once one of the wealthiest and most feared drug lords in the country, was now a man in handcuffs, dressed in a dull prison uniform, surrounded by armed guards. He sat at the defense table, his face emotionless, but inside, he was raging. How had it come to this? The prosecution had gathered overwhelming evidence against him: money laundering, drug trafficking, murder. But the final blow came when his own allies turned against him. Michael Carter, the man who had once been like a brother to him, took the witness stand. Jason locked eyes with him as Michael adjusted the microphone. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Ada Lawson, stepped forward. "Mr. Carter, can you tell the court how you came to work for Jason King?" Michael took a deep breath. "We grew up together. We started small, selling drugs in the streets. At first, it was just about survival. But as Jason's empire grew, so did his hunger for power." Jason clenched his fists under the table. "Traitor." Ada nodded. "At what point did you realize Jason had lost control?" Michael exhaled. "When he started treating people like they were nothing. When he killed those who disagreed with him. When he went to war with Dwayne Parker, despite every warning." The crowd murmured. Jason could hear whispers all around him. Ada leaned forward. "And why did you decide to work with the police?" Michael's jaw tightened. "Because Jason was no longer the man I knew. He had turned into a monster." Jason smirked, shaking his head. "Lies." But he couldn't ignore the pain in his chest. Michael had been his closest friend. Now, he was the reason Jason was sitting in this courtroom. Then came Sophia Rivers, the woman he once thought would never leave him. She stepped onto the witness stand, looking as elegant as ever. But there was no love in her eyes. Ada approached her. "Miss Rivers, how would you describe your relationship with the defendant?" Sophia straightened her posture. "At one point, I loved Jason. But the man I loved disappeared a long time ago." Jason scoffed. "She was no different from the others." Ada continued. "Did you ever witness Jason King committing crimes?" Sophia nodded. "Many times. He ordered people to be killed. He made deals with corrupt officials. He thought he was untouchable." Jason leaned forward. "You're lying." The judge banged his gavel. "Mr. King, you will remain silent." Jason sat back, breathing heavily. They were all against him. Then, the final betrayal came. A side door opened, and Dwayne Parker stepped into the courtroom. Gasps filled the room. Even Jason sat up straighter. Dwayne took the stand, his deep voice echoing. "I've been in this business for a long time. But Jason? He was reckless. He broke every rule, and that's why he's here today." Jason wanted to kill him right there. Dwayne smirked. He thought he was smarter than everyone. He wasn't. Jason's lawyer tried to object, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Jason King's fate was sealed. Jason stood before the judge, his hands shackled. The courtroom was silent as the judge delivered his verdict. "Jason King, you have been found guilty of multiple charges, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit murder. Your actions have destroyed lives, corrupted institutions, and fueled violence across this country." Jason felt a bead of sweat roll down his back. The judge continued. "You once believed yourself to be above the law. Today, that illusion ends." Jason's heart pounded. "Please, not life." The judge took a deep breath. "You are hereby sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Jason felt the world collapse around him. He turned to see Michael, Sophia, and even Dwayne watching him with blank expressions. His lawyer whispered, "We can appeal." But Jason knew the truth. It was over. As the guards grabbed his arms and led him away, he saw the flashing cameras, the reporters shouting his name. Once, he had loved the attention. Now it suffocated him. Prison was nothing like the luxury Jason had once known. The walls were cold. The food was tasteless. The power he once had, gone. As he sat on his bunk in the small, gray cell, he thought about all the people he had stepped on to reach the top. Michael, his best friend, now the reason he was behind bars. Sophia, the woman who had loved him until he gave her no reason to stay. Aunt Martha, the only person who had ever truly cared for him, and the only one who never came to see him in prison. Jason buried his face in his hands. He had won every battle but lost the war. All the money, all the cars, all the power, it had meant nothing in the end. He had spent his life trying to prove he was the strongest, the smartest, the most powerful. And now, he was just another prisoner. One evening, Jason sat in the prison's common room, watching the news. The TV screen flickered, showing a young man stepping out of a luxury car, surrounded by bodyguards. The reporter's voice rang out. "Authorities believe this man, known as Damian Scott, is rising to become the country's most powerful drug kingpin." Jason stared at the screen, recognizing the hunger in the young man's eyes. It was the same hunger he once had. A bitter smile crossed Jason's face. "Fool," he muttered under his breath. Because he knew exactly how this story would end. It always ended the same way. Greed, power, arrogance, betrayal, prison, and then, the cycle would start all over again. Thanks for watching. If you find this story interesting, do well to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell to get notified on our subsequent stories. Don't forget to like and share this video. See you on our next story.